Hey, you want to book your first cruise like a boss? Well, I got 10 tips to help you sail away with ease. That's what's next. Oh yeah, sitting on the boat. Yeah. This is what we all want. We all want to just sail away, sit on a boat, and have a good time. But when you're booking it, there's a few things that go into that and a few things you need to have way before you ever step foot on that boat. So like number one, you need to have a passport. You need to go ahead and get this early. And if you're planning on traveling a lot and seeing the world, or even taking cruises that take you to different countries, it could take up to 6 weeks to 8 weeks to get one. It might even take longer, and everybody's excuse is that disease. Yeah. So get out ahead of it, go to your local post office and do whatever you have to do, get your passport, get it done. Now number two, you're going to have a valid credit card. Have a credit card that you're going to book everything on, and when you get on the boat, everything is going to be attached to that credit card because they're going to give you this key, and that's all you're going to use the whole time you're on your boat to sign for everything, to book everything, and to do everything. So have a valid credit card ready that you're going to put everything on. Now, number three, you're going to have to prove your citizenship. So you might have to have your driver's license, birth certificate, or social security card, some forms of identification just in case you lose your passport or there is some kind of situation on the boat. So make sure you have that all up to date, ready to go. Now, this is important. You're going to need all of this information to book this trip. You're going to have to not only know your date of birth and your personal information and all this stuff, you're going to need to know every single traveler that might be traveling with you, whether you're going by yourself as a solo like I've done, or with a group, which we're doing on March 19th. Either way, you're going to need dates of birth. You're going to need an emergency contact of somebody they can call back at home just in case something happens, and your passports as you book it. They're going to require all of that. Number four, if you have any kind of food dietary needs or special requests, maybe wheelchair access or anything like that, you're going to have to check with the cruise lines prior and know all of this up front to let the cruise line know that you have special needs. Make sure that you have it all written down so you check on all of those before you ever step foot on a cruise or hand your credit card to somebody to book a cruise. You don't want to be last minute trying to figure out this stuff when it comes to life and death or even the comfort of the cruiser. Number five, cruise insurance is going to be totally up to you, but you're going to need to think out and plan out whether or not you need travel insurance. If something tragic happens, you want to be able to cancel this thing. It's not cheap. Hey, some of them can be cheap. Most cruises aren't cheap. And whether it's cheap or not, it is still your valuable dollar. So you might want to insure that to make sure you're covered for any craziness that might happen. It does happen. But that's totally up to you. And if you think you're good without it, hey, save yourself a few dollars. But the point is you have to make the decision before you even start any of this. Number six is whether or not you're going to be booking with a cruise line, a travel agent, or maybe some third-party website like cruises.com. Any of those will work and should suffice for you, but you're going to have to decide that before you even start this, the route you want to take. Me personally, I look on cruise.com and cruises.com and expedia.com and I try to find the cruises, but when I book, I end up booking always through the cruise line, even though I'm thinking maybe in the future I might want to use one. It would be a fun experiment. Number seven, now it gets really fun because you get to pick the next big step, and that is where you're going to be departing from, where you will cruise out of, whatever city that may be. Now, whether that's Galveston, New Orleans, New York City, anywhere in Florida, because there's, 5 ports there. California has a bunch. Seattle. It doesn't matter. Wherever you decide to cruise from, you're going to have to know this port in order to plan out the rest of your trip. That's kind of like actually step one of actually booking it. So number 8, once you know your departure port, you're going to have to know how you're going to get there. So that's the moment where you get to start looking at, can you drive there in a reasonable amount of time? Do you have to take a flight, and what will those flights cost? Do you have to stay in a hotel the night before, or you're going to risk it and show up the day of? So once you decide that departure port, you're going to be able to decide on all of these other factors. That leads into number 9. What are your dates going to be to leave? Now, I'm going to give you some tips real quick hidden inside of dates when you're picking your dates, the more off season, the cheaper the cruises will be. The more during like big weekends like spring break or during the summer months as a whole in the United States, your trip is going to be way more expensive during those times. If you can go at random times in the year when nothing's going on, they're going to be much cheaper. There's cruise lines probably won't be as full and as booked up, and that will help you there. And now the big part is picking the actual cruise. Now, I personally do not care what cruise line I am on. I care more about the dates and the prices, but you may care more about the cruise line and the style. There's a lot to go into picking your cruise, but you need to decide what's most important to you, whether that's the actual line or where it actually goes to and which ports it stops in, or maybe it's just the time of year, or maybe you just have to book in this small window, or maybe you don't care when it goes out, you just want to go. That's me. Either way, you need to start making all of these decisions as soon as you know about when you want to go. And as a bonus, we got to talk about the budget. Once you decide on how much you want to spend, there's a lot more that goes into that. But in fact, I'm going to go ahead and make a whole video just about budgeting for your first cruise. Not only what the cruise costs, but airfare and all the excursions and anything extra you want to add, like free drinks. Nothing's ever free on a cruise. And all of that fun stuff. But until then, you can watch one of these. Stick with us, subscribe, because I'm going on a cruise in 2 weeks. And that's what's next. Later.